printed on the wrong thing and signed on the wrong thing. And then you put your initials on the one back. But like I said, you know, even if I have to stand, you know, out on the football field or 50 feet away, or I still would like to go. I can't imagine Georgetown College, because it's a lot smaller than your high school, being, you know, that big of a ton.
About 30 seconds, Mr. Rose.
30 seconds roll up? Okay.
Yeah.
Like the ones who do and the ones.
Yeah, I know.
We have a huge proportion that.
This is going down for real, isn't it? You're looking really efficient.
Real estate. In person.
Huh?
Yeah, and then you can.
That's the app.
That's
It's just because they're not doing their work.
They've got jobs and they don't want to go to school because they're making $800 a week and they think they're gonna be on that forever.
Yeah.
So.
I'm sure it
We have some,
Almost picked
they
those
call,
up.
they get to their house, they want something to door.
Well, we've had those
I
too.
went out at Highland this afternoon, got the it was 63 degrees. I was like, holy moly. This is Kentucky, baby. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this year I had 63 degrees. It was. I don't know if it's where I had my shoes parked.
Oh, no, I think this is it. I think we got everybody.
We got everybody?
Yeah, because one of them got sick. So I think we do have everybody.
How are you doing, Vance?
Great, Suzanne, how are you?
I'm good.
Mine a bad place.
No.
Okay. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I'm gonna turn where they can see you from here.
You got everybody connected?
Yep. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 connected.
Okay. You mind if I take this off?
Go right ahead, sir.
Okay. I'm tired of being the Lone Ranger. And I know you all are too. Well, it's good to be with you again. I've been here before. My name is Tim Eaton. I work for the Kentucky School Plant Managers Association. We are a facilities group that works across the state with various districts and do trainings and have services for energy services. We do trainings for custodial, we do trainings for maintenance. But I have been with you the last time that we did facility plan in Lincoln County. I appreciate the opportunity to come back and facilitate. Tonight, we do have a quorum. Thank you for being here, and for those virtual. I've run into a lot of virtual across the state in the last few weeks and getting quite used to that. But first I want to ask, can you all hear me okay, virtual?
Can you all hear virtually?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I don't really care if you can't see me, I just want you to be able to hear. So, but tonight on the agenda, as required by the state, we're going to do orientation 1. And I've never been able to make this very much fun, I apologize, but at least I will scoot you through it quicker than if you listen to the audio version that the state puts out. This gentleman sits there and reads it word for word. I don't do that. Real quickly, I'm from Pulaski County, 30 miles away. I retired there 11 years ago as superintendent, and I have worked out in the field ever since part-time with KSBA as well as KSPMA. We have a lot of acronyms in education, as you all know. But tonight, we will scoot through orientation 1. Anytime you have a question during the, don't hesitate to ask. I am not really formal with my presentation. Basically just go through and use a few examples, maybe of something in the past that has happened with me in facility planning or something like that. But after this meeting, the next meeting will be a little more interesting. It'll be orientation 2, and it will have some district data. It'll have some things about your school district. It's some demographics about future growth here and how it looks populace-wise. University of Louisville does a study about that, and it'll be in orientation 2. And that night, your physical agent will present, and they mesh those two together, and it'll be much better than tonight. So I'm going to encourage you to come back. We don't know yet when that meeting will be because the KDE has to produce orientation 2 based on the architect's information that have been doing your building evaluations, and I believe that's Kevin Cheek. Is that correct, Darren? And so that will have to happen, so we cannot predict exactly when we will meet again, but we will. I'll stay after it, and we'll be talking to the folks here, and we'll get that going. After orientation 1 tonight, we're going to elect the chairperson for this committee, and that would just be someone to run the meeting from now on. I'll run it tonight, but after that, we'd like to have a chairperson, and you can self-nominate. You can volunteer, or you can nominate someone you don't like. That's usually what happens. No, I'll take that back. But
Mr.
we will, you're not eligible, Mr. Superintendent, but we will have a chairperson after tonight, hopefully. We're going to do this, we're going to flip through the pages tonight. I usually do it by PowerPoint, but the way we're set up tonight, you have copies, and we're just going to flip through the pages, and some of them I'll have you to flip by because some of it is history and some things that aren't pertinent to today. I don't think you want to hear a lot about the history of facility planning back in the early days because you want to know about what's going on today. And so I take the liberty of skipping some of that. But on the agenda, we'll be talking about the mission statement of the facility branch, overview and history, part of the history, of course, outcomes and best practices in facilities. Probably won't talk much about the RS means pricing because KDE hasn't used that since 2015. So why they keep it in this presentation, I do not know. We'll talk about model programs, which model school programs is the program they use uniformly across the state to direct the facility construction process, renovation process. The model school programs is used everywhere. And then we'll talk a little bit about this process step by step, and talk a little bit about the funding. Not a whole lot because you're going to get a whole lot of more accurate data about that in orientation 2 when you're bonding. People come and they will tell you how much money you have in bonding potential to spend. So that's what the planning process is about. It's a 4-year process. We put down all the unmet need that is found in the district that needs attention, and that will bundle up into some millions, and that will go to the SFCC folks for funding, and you'll get a little slice of facility money based on your unmet needs. So the architect's charge is to find all the unmet need that exists out there, and we'll be talking more about that as we go along. Okay, they talk about, KDE talks about equity and adequacy throughout this. There's some things happened back in the past. In 1990, there was a big lawsuit filed by about 60 school districts that changed the face of education, funding-wise, and they won the lawsuit. And it was a landmark case that's been talked about ever since. Some of you wasn't old enough to even know it was happening. But anyway, it changed a lot about funding in Kentucky, and it actually helped county school districts in a more balanced way with funding. In years past, independent school districts had an edge on the counties because they had higher tax rates most of the time. But there's some equalization that came about with all of this, and we'll talk about that a little later. But the poorer districts in the state now can be equalized somewhat by formula and get more money than they ever could. There's some folks that don't have very much taxable land over in the mountains. There's some places, some districts that I work with that most of their property is Daniel Boone National Forest. They don't have a lot of taxable acreage over there, and they have to have help to balance out and have appropriate schools too. The legal basis, I was talking about that a little bit. They were establishing maintenance and funding for common schools. General Assembly took that on, and as you know, as Mr. Rowe knows for sure, that that's something that we haven't seen a lot of support from in a few years, but money's been scarce. So, but common schools shall be free to all kids. Common schools shall be available to all Kentucky children and substantially uniform throughout the state. That may be true in the learning process because programmatically we follow lots of trends that come down from the state. In the world of facilities, it's a world of difference everywhere you go. There's 180 or 172, excuse me, school districts now, and everywhere you go you see a different model of schools. Many of the schools in some of the poorer districts have been there since the 50s and 60s, and with very little renovation. So as far as facilities being equal throughout the state, we've got a ways to go on that. We are monitored by the General Assembly. They actually put out a pot of money annually that has also shrunk, that's called restricted funds, that they flow through the School Facilities Construction Commission. I happen to be a board member on that committee, and we have shrunk from 150 million back to about 53 million in the last 2 budget cycles. But we still give a piece of that out to all the school districts, and sometimes if a district has made a good faith effort in their county with, just to give you an example, Menifee County, which is in Frenchburg, Kentucky, I was there last night, they passed a nickel tax, property tax rate, the recallable nickel about 3 years ago. I know that's been talked about here at times. They passed that, and therefore SFCC gave them $9 million on top of their extra taxes that they were gleaning from property taxes, and they have been able to build a new elementary school. So the attitude from the state has been, in the last few years, and I'm just telling you what it is, if the district can help themselves, then we're going to help them. So that has been the attitude. So, and it talks about constitutional right again for children to have adequate education. Now, district prior to 1994 on the planning, let's skip through that page. Let's skip through the next page. Let's go to skip through the next page, and we're going to see one that says 2008. So I want to start there. And I'm going to pick up this pacifier because I know this little person needs it too. I'm a grandpa. Okay. The task force that was formed in 2006 changed this process somewhat. The LPC selection, you were selected by process. We had to have so many community leaders, we had to have so many parents, so many teachers, building administrators, yada yada. And they added, even Mr. Darren got added back in that day, that he's added to the LPC as the director. And there were some things revised about major renovation and definition of that to allow roofs HVAC after 15 years. That used to be longer period. But now, they used to have it more stringent that you couldn't break them out and do them separately, but they changed some of that for the good, okay? And planning outcomes and requirements more precisely defined, as they say. Okay, on the next page, you know, comfort nowadays is a big deal to everyone. When I was in high school, out in the east end of Pulaski County at Shottville High School, we didn't think anything about it being 95 degrees in English class on the third floor. But today, that won't work, will it, Darren? So we're about thermal comfort, heating, cooling, ventilation. That's a safety issue with breathing and everything else. So that's a big deal. And you all know how technology changes. Adequate technology is part of progressive school districts and schools. How we plan our financial picture for facilities is kind of based on, like, if you're buying a home, how much money do we have to spend? What can we do with that money in this 4-year cycle as we go through? That all depends a lot on the bonding potential you have, the debt service that you already have, that is rotating off the debt service schedule, so that brings more bonding potential in. Your folks next time will talk about that specifically, give you hard numbers about that. And I don't really like this statement, but when complete, how does the school compare to other schools within the region or Commonwealth? It's okay to compare within the district, but we're all unique and different, and you know, you can compare all you want to, but school districts are different everywhere you go. A lot of personnel is the same, hard-working teachers, hard-working building administrators, but you'll see different facilities. The best practice on the next page that KDE would like to see is 90% of facilities being good to new condition. We got a ways to go. There's a lot out there that needs done everywhere. And this plan, this draft plan that we're beginning tonight to talk about and we'll be working on with our architect, and he is a primary person in this. He will work along with your local district and put together items for your consideration and prioritize those, and that's what this plan is for. They also talk about 100% accessibility for the handicapped. That is not always the case. That's a goal. That's not always the case in every building. But we do have to make accommodations when we don't have that. If we have a meeting on the second floor of a said facility and you've got someone handicapped wants to come, you're probably going to have to move that to the first floor, because we do have to make. No portable classrooms shall be in use. Now, up in Fayette County, they're constantly using portable classrooms because they grow 700 kids a year up there, or they had been. I did their plan 3 or 4 years ago, and it was massive, and I think their unmet need was something like $350 million at the end, Darren, when they got everything assessed. But they have to use portable classrooms because of their growth, and they can't build schools fast enough up there. And don't know if that's slowing down any or not, but haven't been there for about 3 years. And it talks about providing adequate maintenance staff. Says about 1 per building. Districts do that differently. Some districts have a central maintenance staff. I know we did in Pulaski County, and they take in work orders and they hand them out, and the specialty guys go here that need to go there. And that probably is the way you do it here. Is that correct? We did try one time putting 1 maintenance man in each building. It didn't work out too well because had to have others come in anyway because of the expertise needed in all areas. Talks about quality custodial services on the next page. Got a formula there, a little bit of formula, 1 per 20,000 square feet. That depends on the type of buildings and this stuff, but that just has to be decided at the district level, how you would, and I'm sure you all have some kind of something you go by to staff the schools with custodians. Talks about cleanliness and yada yada. The district manager energy management pros shall be in place, it says. I don't know that that's in place everywhere anymore. districts are watching their utilities. I know there's about a 35% waste in any given district if they're not paying attention to energy management, and a lot of that comes through control systems for HVAC. It's very important to be able to monitor non-usage hours. If a building is not being utilized, something like your high school, you can save a lot of money by a setback after 4:30, 5 o'clock through the night, and then have the HVAC come back on early in the morning and catch up. That's the big way to save. Next page, they talk about equity, the application of common principles on fair dealing. The RS Means Guide is the next page. It's what I said a while ago. They have not used this since 2015. Those prices on there have definitely gone up. I can just give you an idea that most architects are telling me now that a high school, and of course the high school's usually the largest building you would build in the district, it's about $242 a square foot right now to build a new high school. So these are somewhat outdated. That's why I don't need to even spend any time on that with you. So it's all gone up, and lots of times it has to do with supply and demand. Sometimes if you're taking bids on a project and a company is needing work, sometimes you can get a lot better pricing in that regard. But the last 4 or 5 years, contractors have been really busy. Then it talks about adequacy, and of course the goal is that all kids can get have an adequate experience at school, and heaven's sakes, with COVID right now, that is just not a given. And I was superintendent for 10 years before I retired, but I can't imagine being superintendent right now because of the stress level that all this brings on. And my biggest worry right now, as I love kids, is the fact that we have kids in our county that are getting nothing. Some of them have been out of existence so long, can't get a hold of their parents. We've just got some kids that have been out there for a long time getting no kind of instruction, and that's very worrisome. The next slide, I talked about the model school program briefly a while ago. This slide just shows you an example of what it takes to have the model program met in a 300, 400, 500, or 600 pupil elementary school if you were building a new one. You can see down through there, the standards are all the same as far as the media centers, but you'll see the square footages increase with enrollment. And you'll see down through there how it goes across the board with the model school program. But this is the criteria that they look at when they build a school, and the state reviews your plans. They look at that. You're building a 300, and you can't build an elementary smaller than 300. There's KRS that forbids that. So your enrollment has a lot to do with the number of course, classrooms, specialty rooms, and all that. So that is the model school program in an elementary model. And I've already pretty much said the next slide. It's this similar program is utilized all over the state. The next page has a 300 elementary school schematic there that shows all of those models that we were talking about just a moment ago. You can see the cafeteria, the kitchen. This is just a way that model program is met through these criteria and these different classroom spaces. We're going to see another one on the next page, another schematic that is a more efficient, less costly model that meets the model school program. However, if you see at the bottom, it says not all classrooms have exterior windows. Now, I was an elementary principal, 2 or 3 schools back in my day. I don't think I ever remembered an elementary teacher that didn't like to have some daylight in her classroom. And the last building that we constructed in Pulaski County before I retired, we actually put skylights in some of the rooms, and they liked that because some days they didn't have to turn the lights on. So the skylights worked well in that regard. The next schematic is separates the primary and intermediate grades, which is a good thing when you have a chance to design a school and give it your very best thought and take plenty of time and involve the teachers, involve everybody that you can. It's a wonderful process to talk about just what everybody wants. You don't always get what you want, but when you all collectively talk about it, it brings to light really the best practices of what you need. And it is a good practice to separate the primary and intermediates and have your specials in the middle. And then the next page, one of the more popular designs in the state is the Media Center Commons. They put the Media Center in the middle. Now, the last school that we built while I was superintendent, we actually put commons areas in classroom pods. We had the kindergarten wing. We had 4 kindergarten classes, a big area outside the classes, a bathroom. The kids never had to go into the hallway except when they went to lunch or maybe to gym. The rest of the time they were confined to their pod. They even went out a certain door for recess, and no lines at the main bathroom in the hallway. Nobody at the drinking fountains, because they had their own drinking fountains within their pods. So we think that's a very good design for an elementary school still. And we have 2 schools like that in Pulaski. That one was built several years ago. We're going to talk a little bit about the format of the facility plan. I pulled your current facility plan off KDE. This is what we worked to come up with, about a 3-page document. All the information that comes in here through the architect and all the data that you're going to see and he's going to tell you about is all confined down to one small report, and it's the district facility plan, 3-page plan. Some of you have seen this before, some of you have not, I'm sure. Some of you were on this committee before, I remember. But your current district facility plan is, like I said, about 3 pages long. And we're going to talk a little bit about the format right now. In your district format, you have on the first page, you have the plan of school organizations. Right now, you all are preschool through 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12. Your long-range plan is preschool through 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 through 12. So that don't change a whole lot. It has your centers listed, all of your schools listed here, and it has the current enrollment. Well, this new plan will have, this one's 4 years old. It'll have your updated current enrollment based on the capacity that the building will hold. It is best practice to have as many kiddos as you can capacity-wise within a school, because the money follows the children. And if you've got a school that will accommodate 400 kids and you only have 125, that's costing the district a whole lot of money of what we call cost of delivery of services, which is a figure that you will see in orientation 2 for each school. Cost of delivery of services takes into account a whole lot of things that go into educating the child. The age of the teaching staff is one thing that's cost more. A seasoned teacher would cost more than a younger teacher. That's not to say you need to get rid of the old teachers. That's just the formula and how it works. All the services that go into a school is divided then by the number of students, and you have a figure. The state figure is about $12,400 per child. I have seen schools that have been 20,000 or more, that their enrollments had really shrunk, and they were surviving, but it catches up after so long. You have your school centers listed, like I said, your capacities. Then we have 5 different categories. Category 1 is in the first biennium of the 4-year plan. These plans are 4 years long. The first biennium, your architect will bring before you some needs that might need to be taken care of early in the first 2 years of the plan. item, the next category is the same, it's capital construction priorities, but it's in the second half of the biennium. So that's when, in these two categories, is where you plan major renovations, new buildings, whatever, that's where that would go. Sometimes you don't have anything in category two, sometimes you don't have anything in category one. It just depends on the needs that exist at the time. Then you have a category three, and your plan, your current plan did not have any priority threes. Those are non-educational additions, expansions like adding on a cafeteria somewhere or a building, a gym. You didn't have any in the current plan. In management support areas, 4 is for central office renovation, bus garage, central stores, those type of non-educational buildings that would need some attention. Now, these are not given near the priority as classroom spaces for kids, because the state looks at that first and foremost. Classroom space for kids and services for kids are the most important areas that they're going to look at. And sports is not at the top of their list. So in the next category, which is called discretionary, category 5, you talk about your projects out there, your softball locker rooms, your whatever needs. And the difference in the discretionary item than any of the other 4 is that you can't use bonded money for that. The district has to come up with ways to pay for it. Now, sometimes you could have a big project at your high school, and they would let you tack on a field house or something if you were really doing a major renovation. So those 5 categories is what's comprised in this little document at the end when we get finished. I am going to let you now, okay, I do need to mention this on the next page. There's a new, and it's been a headache for 2.5, 3 years. There's a new process in the state of building assessment. It's called KFIX. Another one of those acronyms. And KFIX, if I get this right, is, and I don't have it written down anywhere, but it's Kentucky Facilities Inventory Classification System. That is a new thing rolled out about 3 years ago, and they did it like they've done a lot of things from KDE. They tried to float the boat before they ever figured out how to do that. And it's been a nightmare for architects, it's been a nightmare for school districts, because it's costing you so much more to get your building assessments done. This is a very detailed, almost too detailed, to be honest with you. Because you as a committee, you're going to come in here and you're going to want to hear the needs that exist in the district. You don't really care what kind of doorknobs it's used, you know. You need to hear the broad needs from the architect, and he knows how to do that because I've worked with him in another district, and he will do a good job presenting to you. But KFIX has been a very, very tough issue for all parties involved. Used to, your architect would probably, if you had an architect that you were keeping and they had built a building or two for you, they might come in and do your building assessment free, just because you've been a good customer. Not anymore. This KFIX thing has really rolled out a big cost factor for districts. Next page talks a little bit about new construction, additions, renovation. Tells what it's based on. Of course, the model program, like I said. Anytime you're looking at new facilities, you know, KDE looks at everything. Are you growing as a district? Are you staying about the same? What's the projection? So when you build a certain size building, they're going to look at your numbers and they're not going to let you stretch much. One district to the north of here wanted a bigger gymnasium at their high school than KDE would allow. They did go to the state board and they overturned it and let them build that big gymnasium. And so that can happen, but it doesn't happen too often. So most of the time what the facilities branch, whatever they recommend is what you're going to be doing. So I'll roll that in to tell you that when we get a draft plan put together here in the next few meetings, we're going to send it up and let them review it. and make sure that we've got their blessing before we ever have you vote on it or the board vote on it, because we don't want to vote, send it up there, they send it back, we have to have another meeting, vote again. We don't want to do that. We want them to look at it, make their comments, come back, we'll talk about the adjustments with the architect and move on. I done talked about the building systems changing. Next page is just talking about the players. Your district did choose me as facilitator. Your architect's Mr. Cheek with Sherman Carter Barnhart. He will be here. He's like I said, that person is the main player in this, because he and his engineers do bring us all of the information that we see. If there's other things out there that the committee needs to know about, we can seek those things. Sometimes if you're in a situation where bus routes need changed or something, but we may not be there, I don't know. But we'll see as we go along what kind of information that we need to know as a committee to make decisions. Then it talks about K-Fix again on that next page, and it's, like I said, it's better than it was, but it's been, and they do tell us that once you get all this information in your database, Darren, that the next time we do this, it's going to be much less, I don't know if I believe that or not.
That's the way I understand it. Once it's in there, it's supposed to be there.
Yes, but I'll have to see that for
What you
you.
say, it's kind of like building a plane in the air, kind of like, yeah.
Yeah. The next slide is talking about this process. The least meetings that we could have as a committee would be 3. We will not get finished here with 3. We'll try to keep them very minimal as we can, but your district's large enough that I don't think we can get it done in 3, and they have to be done 7. And this is an important part for you. We've got to have a quorum, which is 10 people out of the 20. Quorum is 1 over half, because the superintendent is not a voting member. 19 of you are. So the 10 constitutes quorum. So we beg you and plead with you, try to help us get this through and done. And if we come in and we got 9 people, we can't meet. And so we had a public forum was to be held prior to this meeting tonight. We had, with the COVID issue, you have no public comes in, you're limited on that. So Ms. Benson put out in your ad, any kind of written comments or questions for us tonight, send them in. She did not get any written questions tonight. So I kindly flew by the forum, but we did have an official forum set up tonight, but we had no participants from the public. So as far as written questions, we figured that was the way we could answer their questions, was to take the written questions, get back with them with answers. So let the record show, though, that we did have our first public forum tonight and no written comments were submitted, okay? And of course, talks about the Open Meetings Act, but that's all been shot in the head with COVID so far, because there's limitations. And I've been doing a lot of virtual stuff. Did superintendent search, did some virtual meetings with Pike County on that and others. So it's a different world right now. And we must have 3 forums prior to a meeting, and we'll have one each time in the next 3 meetings. And we'll see if we get comments or questions from the community. And then it talks about process. The LPC develops the draft DFP. As I said a moment ago, we look at it, we send it to KDE, they review it, and they evaluate it against the model program, what I've been talking about. And they would send back little notes in red ink sometimes that tells us, no, you don't qualify to build this big a bus garage, or you don't qualify to do this because of the age of the building. it's not old enough yet to do this too. So they watch all of that stuff, and they're the watchdog. When they do send it back to us, then we'll review it and talk about it, and hopefully have a quorum and be able to vote on it. And when you vote on it, then it goes to the board. The next step, the Board of Education would review the draft plan, vote on it, and then if they approve it, which we want to put one together that they're going to approve and you're going to approve, then I would come up and we'd have a public hearing, and that's an interesting process now. When the public hearing is over, I write up a hearing report, give it to the board, they approve it, and we're through. So, there are advertisement requirements. Ms. Benson had to advertise this 7 days prior to the meeting, one time, when you're having a public forum. Now, if we had an LPC meeting with just us, 24-hour notice like a board meeting would be sufficient. But we're gonna have a public forum before 3 meetings, and then the hearing would have to be advertised for 14 days. So that's pretty much the process. KDE board gets 15, 20 facility plans at a given time, and I don't see very many rejected. So it would go to them, Kentucky Board of Education. Yours is probably due June 2000, probably June 21. And we're going to be pressed to make that, because they have to have everything in up there 45 days ahead. So that puts us mid-April. We have to have documentation to them. So we're going to be pressed. There's no penalty that I know of for being late, though. So we will get the work done, but we're getting started a little late. We're getting, we could have gotten started, we should have gotten started a little earlier probably, but it is what it is, and we're where we are. So we'll work toward doing the best we can. And then the rest of it is the next page. We're talking about projects within the biennium that I mentioned a while ago, and that would be major construction, renovations, those types of things in the first 2 years of the plan. And I'll just tell you that if you don't have something on the burner ready to talk about and with architect and work on the schematic, 2 years is nothing. I don't know how you could even get schematics out and get bids and everything in about 18 months, lots of times on that. So not a lot of number ones usually, because boards like to have more time. They like to go into that second half of the biennium and have more time to plan and do their schematics. So, and I talked about the other 3s, 4s, and 5s a while ago, what they are. We're going to talk just a minute about funding. Most of the general public would think that school districts have one big pot of money, and that's not true. We are talking about restricted monies here that spend on facilities. They can't be spent on anything else. I had a lady come in one time at my office, and she was wanting $50,000 for the band program out of the general fund. And I had 2 high schools with 1,200 kids in them. I said, if I do that for you, I have to do it for another high school, and I can't do it right now. And she was not happy. She said, well, you're building that new elementary school up north. You've got plenty of money if you can do that. Well, your bond issues are 20-year loans that you use restricted funds to pay for. And but she didn't believe me anyway. I tried to explain it, but she didn't believe me. But the restricted funds for building purposes cannot be spent other ways. I'll put it that way. And 5 cents of your local property assessments, when they come in, 5 cents of $100 of value goes toward facilities. They call it the nickel. They call it the first district nickel. It's restricted. It goes straight to a pot for facility support. So other districts have passed other nickels. They call them nickels because it's 5 cents. Other districts haven't passed. I passed a growth nickel at one time. Growth nickels are not even there now to do. We grew so many kids in 3 years, and I qualified for growth nickel, and we passed it. And I filled up the front page of the newspaper with everything I was going to do with it, and I didn't have any complaints. But those days are gone. It's different now. The other, you get your SEEK money, and it goes for a lot of things, salaries, it goes for, but the capital outlay part of SEEK is $100 per child per district enrollment. And I don't know what your district enrollment is now, but you can multiply that times 100, and that's how much capital outlay you get annually. 80% of that figure can be used to pay debt service. So that's another little pot of money that can be used for the restricted funds of building and renovating schools. SFCC, which I told you earlier, I sit on the board. They have some monies out there that they can, with the unmet need that we come up with. And let me tell you what your unmet need was on the current plan. The figure was $73,228,556. That's the plan that you have in place as we speak. And you had lots of renovations on our needed at several schools. And we can give you a copy of this a little later on, maybe at the next meeting. But that unmet need, as I said, is calculated into a formula with SFCC. Your district will get some money in that regard too. So now, like I said a while ago, if a given project came up, a softball field needed attention or something, and nothing else is going on with that, then the district's going to have to figure out how to pay for that. Can't use the restricted funds for that. It's restricted for the other purposes. Let's see. And again, the next time you're going to hear more specifics and hear numbers about what your bonding potential is in Lincoln County at the current time, and he'll even show you a forecast in the next 4 years out. You may have some things that come off of your list of bond issues that you have right now. Every time you do a project, it's a 20-year loan bond issue, and those percentages that school districts get, the rates are great. Lots of times it's 3% loan. Any of us in here would take a 3% loan if we was going to build us a home. But they're based on 20-year bond issues. When those mature and the district's paid off a middle school project or a high school project, then guess what? Your pot of restricted monies goes back up, because that money that you pay for debt service comes back to the district and you've got more money. And I talked about equalization a while ago across the state, which was the best thing that they really ever did for public schools. We're all equalized based on our situation. So poor districts get a little bit more money over here because they can't raise the property rate monies that some districts can. So they get the equalization piece. I don't know that formula, but they do get the equalization piece, and it equalizes statewide, no matter where you live, and gives the kids equal chance to have. Anybody got any questions? Well, I know I didn't do that good a job. And Kentucky don't play tonight. You know, Texas A&M's got COVID. But I hadn't been enjoying watching them play anyway, until later. Any questions at all? Anybody out there in TV land got any questions? All clear as mud?
That's what it sounds like, doesn't it?
Well, thank you for being patient and not going to sleep on me. That concludes orientation 1. you're now certified. And, but I do want us to elect a chairperson tonight. And don't everybody volunteer at once. I'll tell you about the chairperson's role. I do all of your work for you. I bring you the agendas. I sit with you 5 minutes before the meeting, answer any questions you got about running the meeting. If you ever run a church business meeting, or you've ever been on site base, you know enough parliamentary procedure to do this. So if somebody would like to nominate someone for the chairperson of the Lincoln County LPC, we'll take those right now.
I'd like to nominate Darren Yaden.
Okay. You'd be a good person to do that. You're the director, and
I think I've done it a few times, so.
you've done it. You'd be great. Any other nominations? Is everybody okay with that? Say yes or something.
Yes.
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 All right. What about this group? All heads are nodding. But that was easy. That was easy. Thank you, Darren, for willing to do that. And anything, like I said, the next meeting, we will be meeting much like we are tonight. There may be some virtual folks. We may have a virtual presenter the next time. I don't know. Just depends on what their preference is, I'm sure. But we will have your bonding agent here, and we may have Tim Lucas down here with them. They put it together now for you, and do a really good job presenting. And we could, if the district wants to, we could have the architect come that night. The meeting might be just a little bit longer, but it might negate the need for another meeting.
I
So
like that idea.
I'd like to have the architect here. Yeah, I want to.
we'll talk about all that and see if we can get Mr.
He's
Chief.
planning on coming in person. He just lives in Gary County.
Yeah.
Whenever we do it, but he's
Yeah.
planning on being here in person, is what I'm saying.
His plate is so full. I talk to him almost daily, but I'll try to fashion it where orientation 2,
Yeah.
and then the architect, and he can roll out to the committee, the K-Fix report, and maybe we can get moving.
Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, a couple of things. Do we need, and I'm asking, do we need, since this is televised, we need to have everybody say yes out loud so they know that everyone agreed with the chair?
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't know if it's not a big deal for this.
And we need to nominate a vice chair.
And yeah, and that was the other thing, we need a vice chair.
Vice chair.
Well,
Or do we?
I do that sometimes I don't, but in case you might not be here, we could. You're always here. That's what I was basing that
Yeah,
on.
okay.
But if we won't have somebody for vice chair, you can nominate somebody in case Darren wasn't here.
Johanna, I nominate Johanna Ingram. She did last time. Everybody okay with that?
Okay,
And they
let's
can do
back
both-
up.
They can do both at the same time, so I'll be.
Okay, let's back up
That's
to
okay.
Ms. Benson's comment. She asked everybody here, say yes. All in favor of Darren Yaden being our chairperson?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Any opposed except Darren? Then, the young lady,
Johanna Ingram.
Johanna Ingram, is
She's
she
on there.
is she virtual?
Yep.
Johanna, are you willing to serve as vice chair?
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor of that virtually say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Any opposed? All in person say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Feel better now?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. I don't have anything else, so I'm going to ask Mr. Chairman to adjourn us.
Yeah, well, first of all, real quick, I appreciate y'all doing this. Mr. Eaton, we're very fortunate to have him. He's an expert at this, and we'll get through this process. It's not that hard.
He's not an expert.
It's not that hard. You will learn some things, those you that haven't been on it, you will learn a few things. I promise you that. And you do. I mean, you really do.
You do.
But same,
I'm still learning.
yeah, I learned just right then. I've been on 3 or 4 of these now.
I'm still learning.
Do appreciate you taking your time, and if you need to do it virtually anytime, I mean, That's no problem at all. That's one thing that the COVID's came out, and that probably know, right?
Yes, and I was gonna say, we have on the agenda to set the next meeting. Did we wanna wait and do that later, or did you wanna try that
Maybe
today?
we might need to.
Well, you can't set it, right now, Ms. Benson. It's gonna depend on KDE. And this is one of their hiccups, and I've got to talk to Kevin Cheek and see if he's got everything they need up there to produce this ordination too. We can't. We just
So
can't.
we'll just set that
And I'm
out.
sorry.
And she'll
That's fine,
let
that's
you
why I
know.
want to check on it.
Yeah,
That
well,
being said, I just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Jay Duncan?
Need a second.
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 Got a lot of seconds. There we go. After that, we're adjourned.
Thank you.